Well, Rich, is all in this weekend? Because I'm ready.
I got a little bit of time, but it seems like
Wow.
wow.
That
They
was
they hit the fast forward button, especially in that main event. That was
a
well done.
hell of a segment. I mean, that was a template for like two baby faces. They, as good people do, they have natural disagreements. They go down paths that are mistakes that they, learn a lesson from or regret. They are impulsive. They can misinterpret or overread a situation, and then you hash it out. And in this case, they hashed it out by slapping each other and yelling at each other, but they have a ring waiting for them in a Wembley Stadium setting to figure out who's the best. And I mean, I don't really have much to quibble about in terms of what was said in this. I think Omega adequately addressed why he did what he did to Ospreay without seeming like, it was like some long winding story to make up for the fact that, he had to make some assumptions to justify what he was doing. But he built enough of a case to go, I drew some conclusions, and so that worked for me because I had a big problem with him, assuming he was a plastic bag, which again, Taz suggested on commentary was a reason, and he didn't have evidence of it, but he threw in enough other stuff. In terms of how he felt, how long it took Ospreay to come to his aid. I thought that was a great line. Yeah. And, I'd mentioned at the top of my TV report covering Dynamite after the first segment that it struck me that one thing Omega could have said that triggered him was when he saw the plastic bag, it just, in the whole scene, but especially the plastic bag, it reminded him of what the Death Riders did to Brian Danielson, excuse me. And that's when he just realized, what is my friend Ospreay doing associating with these guys? Here's the symbol of what Moxley stands for sitting in front of me. And that and the whole context triggered him. And he essentially, came close to doing that without bringing up Danielson specifically, what Mox did to him. And then Ospreay finally addressed, I think, with an open heart, why he aligned with people who, as he said, he doesn't agree with their tactics, but he kind of admitted with, I thought, great acting. Like if we were down on Ospreay's acting after Sunday, or after, kind of playing the dopey simpleton a little bit, who's being manipulated, this was a guy, as a man, who stood and admitted kind of liked being a Death Rider. That added an edge to his character that he didn't have before tonight, or it had been lost a little bit. And so really, I thought it was one of Omega's best segments. I thought it was one of Ospreay's best segments. I thought Willow did a great job in hers. We'll get to her. I thought it was just a really good night as a follow-up to a pay-per-view. They felt motivated. They had a great crowd. That crowd was enthusiastic. So, Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought that every sit down or every opportunity for leads in AEW to speak, they knocked it out of the park.
Mercedes had one of her best promos today, too. Yeah. Throw that in. Yep.
Mm-hmm. The beginning where you had Moxley look at the film and say, he explained in real time. We saw why he did what he did and how he reacted. And then you jump to the only thing that threw me off a little bit was Hangman. And that was just, hey, surprise factor. And then he's there, and that kind of set the stage for stuff later.
Yeah.
The sit down with Copeland and Cage.
Yes.
With the Young Bucks.
Yep. And this was one of the better Dynamites for talking. That avoided a lot of normal kind of like landmines, like meta stuff, pipe bomb stuff, shock value, breaking the fourth wall. This was just good. I mean, like again, I'm glad you brought it. The Bucks and Copeland. We'll cover all these in a little more detail, but Copeland and Cage and Christian against the Bucks. Again, two babyface teams, but kind of like Ospreay and Omega, of two generations, laying out why they want to win, and they didn't have to tear each other down to do it.
Yeah, and you look at for me, the point guard or the fulcrum of the entire night was Renee Paquette. She was the Mean Gene. She was the insert old school wrestling sideline reporter here, or even any other sport. It was the interstitial between the opening promos. She was the person that did the sit downs, with the exception of Mick Foley, and where I think that was the only miss of the night, where Foley brought a little more of the yuck than they needed, and it was kind of already overstaying its welcome. But every time Renee Paquette showed up, she proceeded or she contained whatever the action was and gave you a narrative that you could follow easily.
Yep. So on the Ospreay Omega front, just tell me something you liked about Omega and something you liked about Ospreay. I would say tell me something you didn't like. We can get to that, but I think overwhelmingly this was positive. Like I said, I don't really have much of anything to even quibble with.
I think from our conversation on Sunday, this for Will, I'll start with him, was he owned up to it. I was thick.
Yes.
I'm an idiot. At the end of the day, I like being a Death Rider. I should have realized, and that was something we even discussed in our and not argued, but we all debated at the roundtable. Until you got to the point where you were gonna have your neck broken, I was kinda okay with everything, and then I kinda saw, "Oh, no, what have I done?" And that's a very honest thing, but it's also a very dumb thing. You should have seen this at the very beginning that this would be what it is. Like also what we discussed on Sunday, there's no world in which you leave the Death Riders just with, "I'm out, guys." You send an email. You can't put 2 weeks notice in and leave a gang. That's not how this works. And then on the other side, but I love the honesty. He was just Will Ospreay. I'm honest about it. I'm gonna just be that guy. On the other side, Omega had he took his best video game cutscene, making the scene as big as it can be, but he focused it. And he focused it with each slap. He was focusing it more and more and more. And what started in his title match against the Jet continued against Osprey, where he's like, "I believe in me. I don't need you to believe in me. And if you do, it's even worse because you should know I'm going to beat you. You can't win the big one." You never he hit him in spaces where as a friend, you never would bring those things up until he's gotten to this point. You've never won the big one. You've always crumbled under pressure. You just jump ship the second you got with the Death Riders, because the very same thing that we heard from, of all people, the lowest member of the Death Riders before Will Ospreay joined. Now you have Garcia seeing him as young boy Bill or young boy Will, and I loved it. I think no Young Bucks being there to stop them and say, let's have peace, or Miss Garrett, girls, 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 like stop the fighting. They just got it out, and that was it. That's all we needed to see. Now we'll see where it goes. We still have a few more weeks to go, but I thought that was a masterclass in a main event segment that really sent us, like you said, it could have been setting us for this Sunday is All In London.
Yes. Yep. I think this is a type of night that sells tickets. Yeah. I mean, this is even if you had the volume down or you didn't understand English, you want to see these two guys fight. But if you have, and there's times I think the words hurt, and it's the intensity of the body language that helps. But sometimes the words are so whatever, all the tropes and stuff. But this was just good across the board. But the body language and the intensity was fantastic here. I think for Ospreay, I think he needed to show an edge. Like I started in the last week or so, just like having a tinge of doubt of whether he had the gravitas, the alpha male traits in him, or that he'd be portrayed in that way enough to be the type of guy that I think AEW fans want at the top. Because he's got all the in-ring stuff, and he's young, he's got a good look, but the edge. And by the way, there's some comments in the chat that are not as glowing about this as us, and so it'll be a good discussion points we'll get to in a bit. And we're expecting 2 on-site correspondents. Rude Dog, we're getting to you right after we introduce the show in 2 minutes. And we got Sean from Tennessee on hold. I know he's got some counter thoughts to some of the things we're saying, or some counterpoints. So we're gonna have a good discussion here. But to me, Ospreay going kind of liked being a Death Rider wasn't a heel move. I mean, it is technically we do have to allow for some wiggle room that he associated with somebody who tried to suffocate to death Bryan Danielson, which is why you should never do plastic bag stuff and you shouldn't try to kill people. But the overall vibe of things is, yeah, and I loved him saying it made me feel like I was traveling in Japan with my guys. Someone had my back. And it made him feel good. But then Omega came back and said, what about our friendship? What about our promise? And I think people relate to this. In fact, I'll throw the first comment up here. Ducky D in the chat says, any, quote, good kid, whoever hung out with, quote, bad kids for a while can feel what Ospreay was saying when he said he liked being a Death Rider. That power and camaraderie is alluring. That's why people even join gangs. And so I think what Ospreay did is he rejected the Death Riders after the flirtation with them and the pragmatism of thinking he needed them to get to the world title. He didn't participate in their heinous actions and their underhanded actions, but he was associating with them. But when the line was drawn, he protected Nick, he protected Kenny, even if it took a few seconds longer than Kenny was willing to tolerate when he looked at it. So to me, he made the right choice, but he was, I thought, a complicated, layered, nuanced, had some shades of gray in him. We don't say that term for overall characters because you muddy up the middle and everyone's ambivalent. But a babyface who's a stand-up guy can have a shade of gray where he goes, yeah, I mean, I kind of liked it. In the way he delivered it and the way he looked over his shoulder, I thought it met the moment.
Yeah, he owned up. I think the babyface part of him admitted it, and what took him to the shades of gray was, as we saw in the comment, that camaraderie. You see that in any walk of life, whether it's a gang, a fraternity, a sorority, a wrestling message board, anything where you can collect and join with folks that you feel welcome. It's going to be
Yep.
something that you enjoy. And in this case, the Death Riders made him earn it. And it was perverse and wild that the people who broke his neck were the people that broke the cycle of him feeling like he couldn't make it to the top of the card or top of the heap, so to speak. But the side effect of that is he realized before it was too late that he wasn't ready to do that final step to kind of cross that final line. And there's some respect in it, but as fairly Kenny mentioned, and we'll get to him at some point, Mox also has the inverse of this, and he's like, I knew you couldn't trust Omega, and you still listen to him.
Yeah.
Everyone has a right argument. It's just what was the ultimate result of each of these arguments. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Yep. A comment here for Mr. Freshman. My goodness, what a great and fun show that was. Thank you, Tony Khan, for restoring my belief that heels and babyface matchups still work. Although this is a babyface matchup, this one, right. But Mercedes and Willow is an example of another one. Copeland and Christian against the Bucks, babyfaces against each other. Yeah. So yeah, I could read more comments, but we want to get to Rudog. He's on hold. He attended the show, so we'll get his in-person perspective. So a quick table set here, and then we'll get to Rudog. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show on Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter. Here's the latest issue, hot off the press. Kenny Omega beats Kevin Knight, attacks Ospreay. Got roundtable reviews from the Torch staff. Can I get this up to the camera? There's Sean Radican's score. I wasn't sure if you were Rich, if you were at the top of the roundtable reviews, but the Torch staff with long-form reviews of the pay-per-view, big picture, kind of next-day thoughts on the show or same-night thoughts on the show with a 1 to 10 score and review. Mine is in there, too. That is a newsletter exclusive if you have a print copy, but it also goes up for VIP members on our VIP website. If you're not a VIP member, you know where to go. And if you don't, I'll tell you now. pwtorchvipinfo.com. pwtorchvipinfo.com. Nearly 4 decades of archives, hundreds of retro radio shows from the 90s. That's fun to listen back to those, including my run on KFAN radio in the early 90s. Over 2 decades of podcasts, including post-pay-per-view roundtables, and then new VIP exclusive podcasts like our post-pay-per-view roundtable after Sunday night's AEW show. Rich Fann, Todd Martin, and I reviewed that show for well over an hour and posted it for VIP members Sunday night. Go VIP, get a commercial-free version of this show on our podcast feed, customizable podcast feed with a full VIP membership, and tons of other benefits. pwtorchvipinfo.com. Everything with Rich and Wade is a VIP exclusive show. Dougie Dog in the chat goes, I loved Everything with Rich and Wade today. That was the show we put up that we recorded last night and posted. He said, it got me through a long drive. Thanks, gents. Go VIP. So again, another VIP perk is Rich and I spending an hour or two usually every Tuesday, but sometimes other days, talking about a wide array of topics. If you're used to the post show, even the flagship, we have a certain focus to what we're talking about. Everything was named after the fact that Rich watches and follows a lot of stuff, a lot of wrestling companies internationally. And also we have social media discussions, what's going on in social media. Rich pays more attention to that than me. Thank you, Rich. So I don't have to. And there's always some nugget in there that I either haven't heard or want an explanation and elaboration on. So it is a VIP exclusive show. Definitely part of the reason you should go VIP. So if you haven't picked up on that yet, Rich Fann is my co-host, Pro Wrestling Torch columnist, VIP analyst, part of everything, part of post pay-per-view roundtables. Rich, good to have you in the coast here. It's been a while since we've been on camera on a post show together.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Though I will say, for all the positives, Tony Khan still does not respect my time. And so, Tony, Come on, man.
Yep. Rich was like, it'd be nice to bow out after about an hour. And we didn't even get to start the post show till 45 minutes after after when we hoped we'd be starting with a normal 2-hour Dynamite. So I don't know if he was planning to save some of those segments for another week or what, or if he just wanted to have a surge of ticket sales. But yeah, this sold some tickets. So Rich, we'll try to keep this shorter than usual, and let you get the thing that humans need, which is some sleep with the early morning. All right. Speaking of which, I promised Rude Dog we'd get to him right away. I don't think he knew it would be this late either. Rude Dog, welcome to the show. Thanks for sitting by while we got our Block A conversation in. But I am eager and excited to get your opinion on this. If you don't agree with us, let us know. But mostly, I'm kind of curious about the ebb and flow of that energy in the building tonight for all the key stars and key segments.
All right. Well, you guys are complaining about going long. I'm still sitting across the street from the Masonic Temple Theater, so
yeah.
Oh,
so
no.
I still got a ways to go, but
you could you have driven home in the last 15 minutes while we kept you on hold?
Well, I'm staying at a hotel, but I kind of like the vibe of just chilling here, honestly. So I'm just busting you.
You look relaxing in the green room.
Root Dog, one thing I think that if Tony Khan wants to make himself a billionaire, just like his dad is, if he has an AEW sleepover where he just keeps the matches going and then they have like cots set up in like the executive suites, boom, that solves all those problems right there.
Well, I feel like I've been at many AEW sleepovers. That's for sure.
Yeah, we all have. Yeah.
But yeah. So, just to give a little history, I've been at AEW since day one. I was at the Chicago All In before it was AEW. I was at the Las Vegas first Double or Nothing. I've seen AEW all across the country, from New York to California to Minneapolis, where I saw the full end that Wade was there, and all kinds of stuff. And I've seen a lot of great shows, and when I saw this lineup to this show, I was like, oh my God, I'm actually going to this. And then I was just like, all right, well, here we go. It'll still be fun, I guess. And I had a freaking blast. It gave me a new joy into wrestling that's been dormant for so long. I was like, you can have so much fun like this again. It was great.
I'll interject. Greg Canner, who is part of the All Elite Conversation Club on the PWTorch Daily Cast, he just emailed. He was at the show too, and he said, one of the best atmospheres I've ever been in tonight in Detroit. Amazing show. So backing up your comments, just sent that in the last few minutes, and he'll be submitting his hits and misses column for pwtorch.com. I encourage everybody to read pwtorch.com every day. There's some really good content on there from talented writers with passion for this. They put thought into their work. It's not just a quick tweet, and it's not AI bots. It's people who have been vetted and put time in, and I edit the columns, and it's worth reading. So tomorrow, look for Greg's hits and misses. He'll talk about what worked and what he thinks didn't work, if there's anything on his list tomorrow regarding that. That's pwtorch.com, the main website. I'm a big part of that. That's where you find my live TV reports too, covering Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown every week. Rude Dog. Okay. So I backed up what you said. You're not crazy. It felt that way on TV. I want to know about the crowd interaction, and we focused on the main event right now. The reactions to Kenny slapping Omega was just gasps. Like, whoa, this is getting heated. This is getting intense. What I loved about Moxley and Ospreay in that closing segment is you got lost. I could buy in. Like, I wasn't thinking, this isn't real, but Omega got chosen by Tony because he's a VP, and Ospreay's a favorite of the hardcore, so he got some perks, even though he's not there very often, and he's injury prone, and Kenny doesn't know how to dress the part, and spent years flubbing promos. We didn't get any of that. What we got is what it would look like if it were real, which is it's the filter everything should go through. Everything should go through the filter of, would it be better if we had everyone act like they would act if this were real? Could this exist in the real world? And if this was a real fight league, Is this how they talk to each other? And is this what they would say? And they would not be talking about who a promoter decided to win a title. They wouldn't talk about things that don't have anything to do with the match at hand, the history and the backstory, and their motivations and their pride. And so to me, I felt like you were, Rude Dog, part of what I have coined in recent years, the peak fan experience. You lose yourself in the moment. It does not matter that it's not real any more than when you're crying at a peak moment in a movie that's meant to make you cry. This sounds like they achieved that and you were immersed in it. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean 100%. And it kind of like took me off guard because I'm so used to such like baloney wrestling that I don't care about. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm at a really cool show and everyone's having a blast. And like even people that don't even know who some of these wrestlers are don't even care because they're having fun. People are asking me, who's that guy? I was like, oh, is this, that, and or another. And it's just like, whatever, it's cool. And like, I mean, I sent you one video, Wade, but I have a lot of other videos. But I mean that one was a weirder one. But I have a lot of like in the crowd stuff where you see like young people that are like 13 years old just having a blast, and I'm like, all right, this is why I'm here.
Yeah. Tell me about the emotions that you observed in the crowd during Omega and Ospreay. Was there a favorite of the crowd early? Did everybody love both? Did half the crowd like Kenny, half liked Ospreay? Did that change or ebb and flow, or like talk about the rhythm and the waves of emotion?
It definitely changed, and I can't really. I think Kenny started out as the favorite, but Will ended up like winning everyone over.
Yeah. Yep. Rich, is that kind of what you think would have happened? That Ospreay won people over as it progressed?
Yeah, especially when he said he put his hands on him, he'll kick the crap out of him.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he finally bowed up, because typically this is his hero. He's mentioned it so many times, and he's been so conciliatory and so deferential to Kenny. This was a really good opportunity, especially after all the slaps, for him to say, no, I've earned the right to share this stage with you. And again, to your point earlier, Wade, this isn't share the stage and I was given this part, you were given this part. Mm-hmm. It's a fighter looking at another fighter and saying, you need to respect me. I'm no longer your young boy. I'm no longer the person you thought I was, the snot-nosed kid. I am the guy who's going to take the title from you. And I even liked before that crescendo where Omega put the belt down and said, is this going to end this?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the 5 slaps across the face might have ended it more than the title belt, but yes, Kenny, we have now entered the part where our friendship has to go on pause, if only to settle this. So I agree. I thought this was great. And I think the crowd, Ruto, to your point, it was quote unquote only 3,500 people, but it felt like an ECW level molten. Every chant is being heard clearly. There's no rogue people in the crowd trying to start crap and create stuff to sow discord. Very much the early first 2 years of AEW where they could show up without a card and it would sell out because folks wanted a movement. And I think this was the reward for giving them a main event that they can believe in.
There was a lot that AEW wasn't doing great in the early stretch before COVID. That I think, we talked about get to the 2 million. To do that, you got to, make it less of a secret handshake clubhouse presentation, assume no knowledge, bring people along, more elbow grease is one of my phrases, with production values videos. We had that tonight, the opening video package, recapping the pay-per-views, what I wish they're doing from the start. We can look back on that and recall, and you can listen to our initial post shows in the early months. And I would say none of that, I should say none of it matters, because it did matter, and I feel bad that they didn't come out of the gate stronger in those ways in terms of storytelling and production values. But the crowds were the MVP. The crowds made up for so much of it. It made everybody feel like a star because of how the crowd is responding. And AEW choosing to go to smaller venues, and they pretty much packed this place. And it looked great on TV, and there was an intimacy and an immediacy and an energy that just never really stopped, especially for the peak moments. And there is an ECW-esque element to that. I mean, it's just like the intensity of how people felt for Sandman's entrance and Tommy Dreamer standing for what they believed in as a wrestling fan. And whatever. I mean, I could go through all the cool, great ECW stuff. But that it resembled that. And I bet this is one of Tony Khan's favorite nights, Rude Dog, because of the venue and the energy.
Yeah, I mean, because you always like want to like get that energy from like the Hammerstein like ballroom or whatever. And I've been to wrestling shows at Hammerstein. Like I saw a Bloodsport show there, and it was cool, but it wasn't this. Like this was like people. It honestly felt like people hanging off the Raptors. Like it was like what you want when you go to a wrestling show.
Yep. Sean Plish just says, Rude Dog, I'm glad you had a great time. That's awesome. Ducky D says, Rude Dog earned his peak fan experience badge. I love it. Okay. Talk about Willow and Mercedes Moné. But I'll just say I've been hard on Willow. I always said it was in the spirit of thinking she could be a top star in a draw, a generational centerpiece act for AEW. I felt that what potential was there, but I felt she laid it on too thick. I felt like she went too far and it started to come across as phony or put on or just too much. It was just too saccharine, too sweet, too. So tonight I thought was just the sweet spot. She was emotional. She teared up, but it took everything good about her and it dialed it down to where I just wasn't distracted by over the top kind of mannerisms and performative over the top reactions and facial reactions and gestures and the cadence and the inhales and stuff. It just felt like she was actually not performing but feeling it. And I wonder if the crowd kept her grounded in a way because she didn't need to create any energy. It just flowed through her from the crowd. And sometimes I see like wrestlers cry when they win a title and I'm like, I'm not necessarily buying it. Or I buy it, but I'm like, you're making too big of a deal out of it. Sometimes, honestly, like it's just a secondary title and it's like, whatever. This was like, it felt genuine and it felt like it was justified because this is the top AEW singles title. And by the way, she's going to be wrestling a legend in Mercedes Moné, a pioneer of bringing women's wrestling up to another level in this country. And you have a crowd genuinely thrilled for her. I thought that was a special moment. And then Mercedes comes out and she didn't bring it down with cliche mannerisms or bad acting or plastic laughs or anything. She was really good too. And she was a heel. She knew what to do to be a heel with her mannerisms, her dress, the way she looked at Willow. But she also had that grievance that I'm supposed to be what you are now. You're getting in my way of what I deserve when I chose to come here. I loved it. I thought it's very sports-like. It's, you're supposed to be the next big thing. And then 2 years later, the next real big thing comes along, a Wemby type NBA thing. And all of a sudden, all these other people thought they were the next big star. Like, crap, Wemby's taking my spot. Mercedes kind of had that vibe, not perfect analogy, but that vibe about Mercedes. So I thought it really worked. Tell me about what that felt like in the crowd, Doug.
When I first saw Willow's like celebration, I was like, okay. I mean, I really didn't expect much of it. I mean, of course, there's going to be some angle going on or whatever, but I certainly didn't expect that. Like, this crowd was so behind her. They were like she couldn't help but cry for how much this Detroit crowd was behind Willow. And I was shocked myself. I mean, I like her just fine, but I was just like, whoa, like this is next level amount of appreciation.
Comment in the chat from Pickens. I'm sorry about criticizing Willow for being too bubbly. She gave people, including me, goosebumps tonight. That's all we wanted. It was there. Zach Barber. Mercedes was also genuine. No silly laughs. No trying to be a heel. She was bitter and snarky. Yeah, that's actually a good line from Zach Barber. It didn't look like she was trying to be a heel. It felt like she was a person I want to boo. Like from the way she walked to the ring, into the ring, her body language acting superior to Willow, being offended by standing in the ring with Willow as a challenger, not a champion. She felt genuinely insulted by that notion. So she wasn't performing as a heel. She just had traits that made me want to root against her and made me want to root for Willow. And that is a distinction that Zach points out that I think is worth remembering when you're looking. Zach Barber also adds, the word you're looking for, Wade, is authentic. Willow is authentically overwhelmed, and it actually helped be more genuine than she ever has. Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree
Rich, jump in. Rich, jump in with a topic or question for Rude Dog about his experience tonight.
Yeah, I think thinking about the entire show, the energy's been from the beginning. But the one thing I know that wasn't on television, but was on the app, was the Insane Clown Posse. How did the folks react to them? And did you get Fago?
I did not get Fagoed. That was the first video I sent to Wade earlier tonight, was my ICP experience. And I definitely did not expect that. So just to let you in, like, I mean, this is a fairly small venue, Masonic Temple Theater. It's been around for over 100 years, has been renovated.
About 3,500 people in the building tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, but we had to wait outside forever. And it was, I think Tony Khan was really scrambling because there was like a line outside the door, and like, people were joking to me in line, like, Tony Khan's just going to open the back doors and be like, just come on in or whatever. Like, but we finally all got in, and so the first thing I saw was Insane Clown Posse with Tony Khan. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? But they got a very mixed response. There were some cheers, some boos, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're ICP.
One of AEW's weaknesses was kind of sometimes living everything in Tony's past and not curating what deserves to be brought back and what doesn't. So SF Niners fan, by the way, in the chat goes, does anyone know what ICP did before the show? I saw that they came out with TK. He posted that earlier. So we're getting someone who was there for it. Rich, jump in, but I want Rude to kind of talk about, like, for people who didn't see it, they're not going to read about it. What happened?
Oh yeah,
Rude talking to me.
Well, that dead moment is when a host screws up and says, Rich, I want you to ask Rude Dog a question, but I also want Rude Dog to say this. And so I threw to both you at once. You're both polite. You're both waiting for the other person to talk. That's on me. So I want to be sure we cover what I just said, but Rich, go ahead with your follow-up because I know you're about to ask it anyway.
Yeah, I was going to ask about just the whole ICP. Like, are they big in the region? Because I know, like, here in Pittsburgh and in like most of like the quote unquote Midwest, they've done some really good shows. They've done some nice indie shows recently where it's a lot less garbage wrestling. They have coherent storylines and you can watch on indie wrestling and stuff like that. But you said it was a mixed reaction, so I'm trying to get an idea of why. Maybe there was something that happened in the area.
No, the mixed reaction is because people don't like their rap act. I mean, it has nothing to do with their, their GCW wrestling. Like, I mean, that's what I got across. And they were they're playing a Halloween show here at the same venue. So they were kind of like promoting that. And I think people didn't want to be promoted to. So I don't know. So I mean,
what was the crowd reaction overall? Beginning, during, and after? Did they win anyone over?
All right.
Yeah. What happened?
Are you talking about ICP or the whole show?
Yeah, it's ICP. Yep.
They came out. There was like what? There was like it wasn't even like a big like positive pop. It was like, what the hell is this pop? And then it was a little bit more booze and kind of just, I mean, a little bit more booze. So I don't know if ICP is going to help, Tony Khan at all, but whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. And I guess my last question for you, Root Dog, and then you just take the wheel. When it came to watching the tag match, there was a lot of the F Ice chants and some of the other stuff going on. And then it turned into, halfway through the match, F Ice and F Don Callis too. I don't know if I've ever known a person to be that good a heel that he's put up against something that people were legitimately booing against. So I don't know if that's a kudo or maybe he needs to tone it down. But what was your reaction to Callis in particular?
Well, I mean, they've done that before. I mean, that's like, I think how the whole like Brody King like fuck ice even started was because it was fuck on Callis and then it was fuck ice too, or maybe it was the other way around. I don't know, but I think they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, even though I don't think Don Callis has anything to do with any ice type things, but it's just like two hated enemies.
It's a chicken or egg situation. I got it. I respect it.
All right. Sorry for swearing, people. Wade's gonna put me on a.
Well, not just I just want to. I don't want to deal with logistical fallout from, but I think the context is fine.
Wow. Okay.
And I mean, it was on TBS. It's not like we're reporting. We're reporting what was on national cable chanted. It was good to see Don Callis has great heat. I feel like, for a couple of years I was saying, get in the Don Callis business. Don't just have him voted in on commentary and show up every few weeks. Like, get the family together on camera every week. Let him be a manager of this generation. Give him a chance. And I got on his case and I said he needs to bring it too. He's got to look like he puts thought into it. He's not just there to do a quip that'll get a funny reaction from his friends in the back who he cracks up, which is what I felt he did on Japan commentary a lot, even though he got a lot of acclaim for it. And he's brought it. He's trying to be manager of the year. He's doing it every week. And he has the crowd heat that managers should get. Copeland and Christian and the Young Bucks talked about, Copeland specifically said tag wrestling kind of got put off, kind of set aside, pushed off to the side, and we want to bring it back. Don Callis is helping to bring back a traditional manager. Obviously Paul Heyman is the GOAT of managers of this era, and his body of work is unmatched. But Callis is just that guy who's on TV every week with a whole family of wrestlers, not just a top guy. It's different than Heyman, where it's like a small group with Heyman. Callis has this big crowd. It's different, and to get that kind of heat everywhere he goes is great. You decide, like I said, we put a short up on YouTube on it too, with me saying the formula is easy. It's not telling fans who to cheer for. It's knowing who your fans want to cheer for, and amplify and emphasize those traits and put them in a babyface role. And then figure out who people don't like. Read your fans. Don't tell the fans. Don't dictate. But at least listen and observe and figure out what your fan base doesn't like. Figure out who those people are and amplify it. And that's what Don Callis is doing. He is amplifying. It's so fun to boo him. It doesn't matter, fake or he represents someone you want to chant F you at. And they've just held on to it and they lean into it. And you got to be in the building for it, Rude Dog. And it's fun having that kind of heel heat for a heel. It's not about funny lines or whatever. It's they booing the shit out of a guy who they don't like, and it's wonderful. It's one of the great things about pro wrestling. It's not just high spots. It's feeling those emotions and letting them out, good and bad. And yeah, tonight, as Greg Cantor said, it was a peak fan experience, or it was a peak experience for him. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead, Rude Dog. Yeah.
And one guy you probably maybe wouldn't even tell from the show, but Kyle Fletcher, he wowed the crowd. That guy, I think, he didn't get the biggest ovation or whatever, but he was the wrestler I thought everyone was most engaged in what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's right. How did Andrade compare?
People were more interested in his pants getting ripped off, so it was kind of hard to tell.
Wow.
Now, Rude Dog, how you know?
But no, Andrade's great. Whatever.
Yeah.
That gets a little much.
Yeah. So, what else happened? What did Tony Khan say to the audience off camera? What happened before and after the show? Anything you can pass along that we didn't see on TV?
Well, sure, there was the whole ICP thing beforehand, but that really didn't amount into much of anything. But ICP did sit in the crowd the whole time. They had their own private box which was interesting. And then, but besides that, afterwards, like people kept chanting pay-per-view, like they want a Detroit pay-per-view, and of course he's like, oh yeah, and he just like did a word salad that's like, yeah, this is a great city and blah blah blah, and didn't promise anything, but kind of said maybe. So
I think Tony wants to run bigger buildings for pay-per-views, and that's the downside.
He did. I forgot about that part. He said he wants to be in Little Caesars Arena, where it's where the Red Wings play and the Pistons play, and was like, "Do you want a pay-per-view at Little Caesars Arena?" And he made everyone like try to like chant for that. I was like, I'm not chanting for this. I don't know.
Is the Palace of Auburn Hills still up, or was it raised?
No, it's gone.
It's gone.
Blown away.
Yeah.
So
I saw SummerSlam there. Lex Luger's celebration.
Yeah.
He celebrated like he won a championship, and it was a count out, and he didn't know he didn't get the title. Dumb baby faces.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's some. I have some fun photos of fans who traveled from Japan to go to that SummerSlam in the parking lot, dressed as El Gigante and Macho Man Randy Savage. It's wonderful. I got to post those photos someday. Anyway, I'm digressing here.
I used to go to Palace Auburn Hills all the time for house shows. The first one I saw, I think, was Hulk Hogan versus Big Boss Man in the big blue cage.
Fun.
So yeah,
big blue.
You want to talk about where? Yeah, whatever. All right. I should probably get out here.
Yeah, we're good.
If you have any more questions, I got you. But
did the crowd stay patient or fully engaged, or what for the tag team pre-recorded sit down? That went on a while. I liked it, but it went on a while.
They were more engaged than I thought they would be, because I was pretty much bored out of my mind. But no, I mean, they still kept, like, it wasn't like a mass, like, exodus to, like, go to the restroom or whatever. Like, it went over fine. Like, honestly, pretty much everything went over fine tonight, which was shocking.
Talk about the reaction to Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, and if there's a difference, and what you make of the reaction for Moxley, because it does feel like he's sort of in a category unto himself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about that, but I think he gets, honestly, at this time, like more of like a legend type pop, which is kind of hard to say because you still think he's, not a legend, but he's been like going through the meat grinder for years. So I think it's just like a legend pop.
Yeah, he's the coolest guy in the building, and people can't boo that. But the downside is there has to be a disconnect from heel actions, and being that cool and that popular and getting cheered by a lot of people breaks sort of something that you don't want broken if you're the promoter or booker or other wrestlers, which is his action should cause people to boo. And so is he better off being almost exclusively facing heels and letting fans just let him be Moxley, but also tone down on attempted murder?
I don't know.
That would be.
I give Moxley more a pass than most, but
I think everyone does. Yeah, and I mean he earns it with his charisma and his character. I just no electric drills, no plastic bags, no setting houses on fire. I mean, I just think we can all agree to that. It's just because I don't know. You shouldn't be allowed. You shouldn't get a paycheck if you try to put a plastic bag over someone's head. You shouldn't continue to get paid by your boss. Like, I just think that breaks. You can get away with a lot of things. Barbed wire chair, sure, but suffocating, that's death. It's like, you just don't go there. Stay out of that category. But that said, I thought he was so cool, and Rich and I should talk about after you go, Rude Dog, his promo late in the show, kind of defining who the Death Riders are and his reaction to what Ospreay said and did too. Rich, anything else you want to ask Rude Dog before we let him go?
Have you moved 1 inch, Rude Dog? I feel like there hasn't been any movement.
He shifted. We've seen his profile, and
I kind of moved around a little bit, but not much. But,
man, I'm telling you, AEW sleepovers. Get on it, Tony.
I don't want to be a part of it, so don't put me in.
No, that
anything
means they stay there, and then you could drive home quicker.
Oh, okay.
See how you know.
How you know?
Zach Barber says
When
Wade
the
just had to
Pope-
bring up the bag. I didn't bring it up. I brought it up,
The
but so
bag
did
brought itself
Ospreay
up.
and Omega. It's there. Sean says, Zach, it needs to be brought up. You don't get to pretend it doesn't happen. It's a dumb thing to do. And Moxley is cool and almost veering into being a legend, and he shouldn't do that. It's immersion breaking. All right, Rudog, we'll let you go. Have a good evening. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
All right, Rich, I want to throw a few comments up here on the screen for us to react to about Kenny and Ospreay especially. I mean, I feel bad because there are other segments on the show, including the opening interview with Ospreay and the confrontation with the Death Riders that we can kind of weave into our discussion. But let's... well, first of all, funny comment. Gilbert Arbalo says, how to lose an American crowd during your promo 101. Make a soccer analogy. The 90 minutes are up and now it's overtime. And I was like, wait, what? Are we talking about how long Dynamite has run? It took me a second.
But to me, as a person who follows soccer, the one thing he shouldn't have said, and he said, he's like, England has a bad history with penalty kicks. They have a terrible history when it comes to penalty kicks. And he's like, but now I'm the one up. I was like, Will, that's not helping the case.
No. I totally agree. Yep. So Chris Rucker says, man, that main event segment took a minute to get to the point, but I can't wait to get to London to see the match. Do you think anything was belabored? Because there was a lot of exposition there. Because, I mean, I do feel Kenny was aware that there was criticism over his actions. And because he said, I didn't expect the fans to understand, but I thought you would, Will. And it was sort of introducing into canon. Yeah, what I did might be a little puzzling. Let me explain. And then he walked us through every step of his emotions and his consciousness and his awareness of what was going on and his inability, no energy to take the chair off his head. But then it struck him when he turned around. There's the Death Riders. There's Ospreay. There's a plastic bag. You could have helped me sooner, and you didn't. And that's what made me snap. So did that work for you? And do you think it was too much of an explanation? Did it seem defensive? I liked it. I thought it worked, and I thought the duration of it is part of what made it feel epic. But Chris Rucker said, man, it took a while to get to the point. So how'd you feel?
Yeah, this is similar to how I felt on Sunday. When he's semi-conscious, he sees that. It's great that Will made the emotional, quote-unquote, good choice, but he took so long that he still got the crap. Kenny got the crap kicked out of him. Mm-hmm. Still almost had his neck broken or rebroken. And remember, we talked about it on Sunday, the hugging, and you have Will or Yuta kind of like doing the thumbs up behind the hug. You should have gone in guns blazing if you knew this was what the option was on the table. Because you're with the gang. They've done it to you. This is not going to end with cheers and hugs and, hey, we did it in our little Death Rider scrum hop. And I could see his point. And also, I can see that he is sick of people not believing in him. And so lashing out at the person who took too long made sense to me. I see what Chris is saying in terms of the length, but the epic, it needed the time to land the plane, but now you're going across the pond to see it. I think other people were going to make the same decision after seeing that.
Yep. The kind of the roller coaster ride of emotions where you see Omega's side and then you see Ospreay's side. You're kind of bouncing back and forth like, okay, I understand where he's coming from. And so we talked a lot about Omega. And by the way, the video package recapping at the top of the show showed a handshake after Omega is I'm cutting this is a quibble. If there's a quibble. Ospreay's like, I turned around and I saw the plastic bag and I realized you had it, you could have, and it took too long. But then he did shake his hand. And then he did the attack. So I guess we're to believe there's different explanations that are fine. It's not that big of a deal, honestly, but like, I'm going to give you a false sense of security, or I'm going to help you put your guard down. But he did, after taking him down and attacking from behind, he threw the plastic bag in his head. Like, he made the plastic bag a big part of the visual of why he was upset. And I think that's what led to Taz to say, to make that the central reason Omega, he was positing that was the issue. And then that's what led to me going, well, wait, Kenny didn't know what happened. Ospreay could have torn it up the second Moxley gave it to him. He doesn't know the timing of it. So the plastic bag, I would still say, even with all my praise, if we're gushing about this segment, the plastic bag should not have been the central part of this story if they didn't have a more logical way to incorporate it and react to it. And I still think they came up short there, but I think it didn't matter because they brought it in every other way and succeeded in so many other ways tonight.
Yeah. And I think the plastic bag is both the point of no return for Omega, but also the tipping point for when we talk about Moxley, where he said, you know what, screw it. We are who we are. We don't need your praise. We don't need your pity. We're not going to apologize for what we did because we get results. And
we meet people he said, we meet people where they are and play by the rules that are necessary.
Yeah. And the best example of that is, and it's so, like, again, Moxley is, I know they had this stable in NXT, The Way, but he really is, or, you think about Star Wars, and this is The Way with The Mandalorian, etc. But he really is the way of AEW. Right now, he is the Continental Champion, and at no point does he cheat. He just beats you. And he uses that as the example of, I don't need my guys. I'm lethal enough on my own. And then after the match, they'll come and they'll sick them on you. But it's the proof of point. In the tag division, the rules they follow are the rules that are close enough to break that line. And if we can win it, we'll win it. If we can win it with 6-man, we'll win it. If we can help the bang game lose, we'll give them a shillelagh. Even though in that match, every weapon was legal. I don't know why she hit it. And so I like it. And I feel bad because this is still following his master plan of Rocky 3. But for those of you who haven't seen Rocky 3, halfway through the fight, after Apollo has trained Rocky, he tells him in the corner, no tricks, which means he's not going to switch his stance like they've trained the entire summer for this fight. And he's going to fight with his non-dominant hand, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen to win a title. That's Rocky. We're going to move on. But in this case, Ospreay is saying, I'm not going to win your way, and I'm going to still pull the trigger. So it seems like Moxley is going to win even when he loses in this case. He might have lost a Death Rider, but he created a viable champion. And I think that's what Moxley's role has been. He's either culling the herd for folks that are weak and shouldn't deserve to have the title. He's developing folks who should be champion, like Taz is, we build assassins. And then he has this gang/cult that can continue his voice even when he moves on. It's wild that they have this existing as whatever it needs to be at any given time.
I felt Mox was mad at me for a minute in his promo. He's like, I'm sick of all the talk about the way we do things. Oh, the morality police are out. And I was like, oh God, he's like mad at me. And then I felt like I was being spoken to by Taz, because Taz kept pointing out, like when Andrade took the selfie, that allowed Nick Wayne a chance to recover and take him down. Another Bandito, it was Commander, I think, had an advantage, or maybe it was Bandito in the tag match. Whatever. There was another spot where a babyface like played to the crowd too long and it backfired. And Taz pointed it out on commentary. And then the third thing is when Ricochet and GOA, the Demand, did a pre-match attack, Tony Schiavone said, I like that the referee has not rewarded them for their pre-match attack by not calling for the bell yet. I felt so hurt tonight, and a little yelled at by Mox. But no, I mean, joking aside, like, I'm glad the announcers are drawing attention to it. But the next stage is for the producers backstage to have a little talk with Andrade and say, here's a new rule. When you take the selfie, we want people to be glad you took it and enjoy the spot. So after you take it, you're going to stay on offense for at least another 30 seconds. That will not be the reason the heel takes over. And tell all the wrestlers, when you play to the crowd. Absolutely. After you score the touchdown, not at the 8-yard line and the ball gets knocked out of your hand. Stop doing that. It shouldn't be a transition point for heels to take over, because it makes you look undisciplined. And the announcers pointed that out. Taz said, got to stay more focused. So when the announcers are calling it out, which I believe they should, the question should not happen, The question should happen backstage in the production meeting or the setting up the match. It should not be something that the announcers have to ignore, because the announcers should care about their credibility, and so Tony Khan should want his announcers to have credibility. So little things there, but I hadn't heard it as much as I did tonight from Taz, and I'd never heard Tony Schiavone say, "Yeah, I'm glad the ref hasn't rewarded that yet." So more of that. A couple other chat comments on bigger things on the show. Chris Rucker said, Willow and Mercedes and Omega and Ospreay hit them out of the park tonight. I wish the pay-per-view was this weekend so they can't ruin what they did tonight. What do they do to follow up on this, Rich? We've got 4 Dynamites, I think, on the calendar. Like, honestly, did they peak too soon? Did they peak too soon?
Well, it's a catch-22, because this is one of the rare times where you had a Dynamite where the champion was on the show the next Dynamite after a pay-per-view. And so they had to have that there. I think they still have opportunities, because Mercedes and Willow most likely will have a tag match or something in the next 3 weeks. But you want to have a sit down at some point, because that's where Renee in her varied roles can make the same thing feel totally different. I think the sit down is different than the in-ring promo, which is different than the inset on the way to the arena promo, which is different than the sideline update. So we might not see Mercedes next week, but we might get Renee relay to us, this is something that happened when talking to her last week or talking to her during the week. Because I think one of the things and that's why I keep coming back to Renee Paquette. She makes it seem like people talk to each other between episodes. She makes it seem like there is a fabric of logic that goes. And as much as I agree with Chris that sometimes they do too much and then you have nothing left for the next week, there's still the ascent of Will taking on the Death Riders. There's going to be the question of, does Kenny do the right thing to protect another babyface that's his alleged friend? Or does he now show Will what it feels like when someone abandons him at the moment he needs him the most? And so those sorts of things can be, like he said in the promo, Will said, I had no one to turn to. And Kenny, I love that part. Off mic said, you could have gone to me.
Yep.
And so that stuff we can see play out. Now, Mercedes and Willow, I'm a little worried because of the conglomeration, and I think that's the biggest part of the equation. They were distracted doing their 6-man stuff, so they couldn't bring the silly to Willow and let Willow be, as I said on Blue Sky today, she is the best example of a developed soup to nuts, give someone the ball, let them run with it, star that Tony Khan has created, that she got the opportunity and she's standing tall. She hasn't left like Powerhouse Hobbs. She hasn't left like Ricky Stark, Saints, whatever. She's here.
She hasn't disqualified herself like,
Britt
Sammy
Baker.
Guevara.
Oh,
yeah.
We had a couple of people in that category.
What'd you say?
Britt Baker.
Oh yeah.
And she also has endeared herself to the fans in a way that is genuine. Even when she is over the top and you kind of have your quibbles, she had proved in this evening she can keep it serious. I even like the outfit she wore, like the suit where she looks like, again, one of the few times I am okay with AEW maintaining the same Z's rule. Her and Kenny as champions had the same color and style of suit, but hers was more with the skirt and his was with clearly pants. And I like that because the champion is now dressing to the title, but not in a way where it's, I'm a Ric Flair clone. I am dressing in my own style. And so I think over the next few weeks, the biggest thing is keep Mercedes and Willow far away from each other, have a few conversations, but for the most part, let that bubble. We didn't see Tekla.
I think it would have been distracting if Kenny had worn the skirt and Willow wore the pants. I think that would have distracted
I saw
from
a Street Fighter commercial. It would have been.
So you praise Renee. I want to say the best moment for Renee, or the most memorable moment for me, is when Christian, who had the moment of the night, and he just goes, I just want to throw in there that it's good your wives are going. And Renee goes, what? Like she reacted just perfectly, not over the top fake. It was just, what? Like she was startled by, like genuinely startled by it. And like, are you kidding me? And Christian's deadpan delivery is just fantastic. One quibble with Renee is before Maya World's match, she was the ringside reporter. Mm-hmm. And she said that Maya told her she has the ball and she plans to keep it and see where it takes her. Can we do something better than that? Can I would like something that brings something that we don't, isn't just a trite cliche that you made up because you're scared to say anything. Like that's just That's not nothing. That's not worth doing a ringside report for, or at ringside. So give us something more than a cliche. I think too often she doesn't have material, and it's like she's just shoved to the ringside and say something neutral that makes it seem like you're being a ringside reporter. I want really a probing. I want some fact that's a result of a probing interview with them earlier that allows me to get to know them a little more. Not she has the ball and she wants to keep it. So there. Now we can't be accused of being stands for Renee too much. All right,
couple what about this tattoo I just got? Never mind. Too soon.
yes. All right, another comment. Mark Pescetti said, seeing Kenny Omega be part of being part of episodic wrestling again after his diverticulitis and lighter schedule is making a fan out of me. Will, not so much. He's trying way too hard. Fann Blast says, I told you there's some negative comments here. Fann Blast said, God, that was so long-winded and boring. Does no wrestling company have faith in two guys just wanting to see who's better? Why does it need to be this forced, convoluted drama? And I disagree with that, Fann Blast. I don't think this felt forced and convoluted. It felt like they were pulling from the journey that we've watched them with our own eyes go on. I think they had a lot to talk about after Sunday and a lot to talk about in general. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like they're grasping to try to seem relevant or create a buzz. It felt like what these two would say to each other if this were a real life situation and there was no time limit on them hashing it out.
Yeah, you have two wrestlers who have had severe injuries that have curtailed their careers, who are staring at each other. And while Kenny might see Will as having a little bit more sand in the hourglass because of the injuries, I would say they're about the same. And so that desperation to remain or become champion, especially on home soil, especially in an opportunity to kind of right a wrong that should have happened probably, in my opinion, when he first signed, so 2.5, 3 years ago. It's all there. I like the drama of this. Like, can he get back to the top? Can he stay at the top? Some of this could have been done with video, but I think it's even better for them to finally have this. Into the poster's point, sure, let's word vomit. I thought it was more than that, but I see what you're saying. But I think the rest of the time, these next few weeks, is going to be what they request. I'm the best. You're the best. Who's the best?
Yeah, I am curious what they have left in terms of, is it just going to be, that was great, let's just recap it, build on it, and get to the show? Or do they have a twist or a turn in it where they end up not at this exact place, or even they one or both of them end up in a slightly different place at All In than they are at now? Or do we just reinforce where they're at over the next month? And I'm curious to see how they handle it. Another chat comment, Darrell says, the promo at the end didn't explain what happened Sunday at all, but I guess they tried in their way, but it left me confused, though, and it just shouldn't have gone another way. Yeah, I covered that. I mean, it has a hole in it. You know, Omega's body language and shoving the bag in Ospreay's face made it seem like that's why he attacked him, and I think they're making it up after the fact that, no, it's how long you took. But the explanation was believable enough. I don't think most people are sitting here now analyzing the film. I think it was confusing the night of. Taz added to that because it didn't make any sense.
Very much.
But tonight, I mean, he's not sitting in a witness chair taking an oath. He's recounting his emotions. I'm good with the effort and good with the output. Kane Plays stuff in the chat says the Kenny Ospreay promo just absolutely nailed it. I wish the match was coming up this weekend instead. I can't wait a full month. Sean Plichta, who will be joining us in a bit here as a caller, says the last segment was on fire for sure, but Ospreay saying he needed a bunch of friends to get him through a tough time. The Death Riders were never his friends. So, real quick, Rich, I know you got to run in a moment anyway too. But did Ospreay? We've been calling for this whole time since the Ospreay Death Rider alliance. Ospreay needs to let his fans know why he was willing to associate with people like the Death Riders and the things that they had done and the things that they were doing, and he was willing to ignore it or look the other way or be oblivious to it. And how can we forgive him for that or be okay with that? And we kind of owned it by just going, I kind of like being in the Death Riders. It was his way of saying, yeah, they did some things, but it served a purpose for me that I felt I needed. Yeah. So how does he? Is it settled now? Okay, he gave his explanation. It was good enough, and now we move on.
Yes. And I disagree, and I apologize. Yeah, I do have to leave in a few minutes because I got to get to bed. But Sean, I would love to argue with you about this because for me, the biggest issue is I disagree with the fact that they by the end they were his friends.
Yeah.
And so that makes this even more fun because now hurt people, especially hurt people who hurt people hurting people, because they may have broken his neck, but then if I go fully into the cheese, he broke their heart. And you can tell the way they reacted when they had that post mid-show scrum where they were talking it through. They're now like we let someone in and look at what happened. We're not explaining ourselves anymore. Like, we're handling this guy, and it's not going to be we're getting him to ruin the title match or anything like that, but he betrayed us, and you thought you're getting out just by giving us back the patch. That's the last thing you're getting. We're putting you in the dirt. And even the playfulness of Garcia trying to do what he did at the beginning when he was needling Will, and that led to Will becoming the newest member by showing that viciousness when he fought him months ago. That's all in there. And so I look forward to it because I think they did like him. I think they really did. And now they feel like this person wasn't really with our way. And so I wonder who the next person is they try to recruit, if there's anyone, and how they go about that.
Yeah, really. I thought about that. A couple other chat comments, and we'll get to our on-site correspondent number 2, Danny, and we'll let you go, Rich. Joker's Nuts in the chat says, that last segment was great theater. I mean that as a sincere compliment. That was tremendous. Possibly one of the best promos Omega has done, too. Really good stuff. I'm way more psyched now. Mark Piscetti says, Will brought more intensity, but Kenny's the one who grounded the promo down and at least made it feel like a step forward. Will is grating on my nerves when he turns up the fiery babyface shtick. I thought Will's tone was good tonight. I thought facial expression, body language, I thought it renewed my belief in my advocacy for him being the top centerpiece babyface. He felt like a man, not a simpleton boy.
Mm-hmm. I could see some of it, like we had earlier with the questions about extra time, and we've gone 90 minutes when they actually had gone 90 minutes. That was maybe poor timing in terms of saying that. But I agree. But for me, I can see Will being the simple, I'm just a simple man, being his shtick. But today he was fired up, I think. And I think they knew that. And I think that's why they had the slaps, to get that emotion out of him.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being, say what you're going to say. And I like the sputtering at points during it because he didn't have time to have a rehearsed line. He was just getting out what was on his chest.
Yep. Bob Bowman says, if AEW is trying to make me like Will Ospreay, they're doing a really bad job of it. I'd rather see Omega retain it all in than Ospreay win. And that's fine. I mean, I don't think they're trying to steer you away from rooting for Omega. I think this is let the fans pick, but it's done in a way that's being presented with the sports parameters around it that make it believable. And they made the title seem important, and they made it about winning and losing and becoming champion, not other stuff. Even though there's a big history between them, it's about, I want to win. I need to win. And it's about the title and being champion. Mike Good says, and this is how we'll let you sign off, Rich, because this is perfect. TK is damaging the show with unnecessary main events and making us wait for what we want to see late in the overrun. How do you feel about the show going almost 3 hours and having this overrun in that key segment be so much deeper into the night?
It was, again, I said at the beginning, Tony didn't respect our time here. He was here's my issue. First, I had in my notes, wow, you have another Dynamite where the champion doesn't speak after the pay-per-view. Because I assumed it was going to end right after the 6-man. And they're like, oh no, folks, wait, we still have Kenny Omega. I was like, wait, what? And then as soon as they started with the talking, I was like, oh, this isn't ending in 5 minutes. This is ending in 25 minutes. So that was, if you omitted either the Demand 6-man and you added that to Collision, or you removed the Mick Foley awkward promo, which I think they're letting him give into his most base entry, the least parts of him I find fun. And so you eliminate that, and then you also get rid of maybe 5 minutes on the party match to start. Maybe we could get it under 2:25, and it's fine. Going almost 3 is egregious considering you just went 6 3 days ago.
Yeah. Rich Fann, thank you. Appreciate you staying up late with us. We kept you just over an hour. I'm not taking responsibility for Tony Khan.
It's not your fault.
Having us start so much later, but there's too good of a show to not cover a lot of bases with you. So get some sleep, and we'll talk to you this weekend after SummerSlam.
All right, thank you guys, and hopefully next time we'll have a lot more time to chat because it won't be a time where I have to get up super early for the day job.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. We're going to keep the show rolling, though. We got Sean, who will be joining us in a bit, but we got our second on-site correspondent, Denny, joining me right now. Denny, welcome. We talked to Rude Dog earlier. We heard from Greg Cantor, who's in attendance. I don't know if you heard that, but Greg...
I was... Oh, God, I'm sorry, Wade.
I was just going to read his quote. He said, "One of the best atmospheres I've ever been in tonight in Detroit. Amazing show."
Yes, sir.
So excited to get your additional take on this.
First of all, I want to say I'm super disappointed. Rich just signed off. I know he has to go, but Rich is one of my favorite co-hosts that you have on regularly, Wade. So sorry I missed you, Rich. Wish I could have called earlier, but I live in Toledo, so like I have about an hour drive. So I got home and called in. That's what you and I talked on the email. But yes, I 100% agree with those sentiments. That was one of the most fun atmospheres I've been in wrestling. And with the setup of how the Masonic Temple is, and how intimate of a venue that it is, and the hotness of the crowd, it very much gave me like what it would be like in the Hammerstein Ballroom in Ballroom in the ECW days. That was I felt those vibes the entire night. It was a hot crowd, and I know when I called in last week for the Monday Night Raw, I think I told you, like, the crowd was hot. They wanted to cheer for something. It just didn't feel like WWE gave us a whole lot to cheer for because it was kind of a letdown of a show. Whereas the crowd was hot, and then AEW delivered from the beginning to the end. They just gave us so much to cheer for. Great matches, great segments. Wade, I have not had this much fun at a wrestling show in a long time. I've been to the last 2 WrestleManias. I went to All In last year. Wow. And I'm going to SummerSlam this weekend, and I'm sitting there going, I'm fearing that I'm going to have more fun at an AEW Dynamite than going to Minnesota for SummerSlam, because it was a great show. I hope it came across on TV as fun as it was inside, because the crowd was hot.
I felt like I had another go-to example of a peak fan experience tonight with the Willow Mercedes segment and the Ospreay Omega segment. And it wasn't a wrestling match. It wasn't a title match, but it was fans like with Willow and Mercedes. It fits the babyface heel dynamic that Willow is immensely likable, sometimes a little too much. I got to add that parenthetically, but this was her in a sweet spot. And Mercedes sometimes comes across like a wax figure who's malfunctioning. And that wasn't her tonight. She felt like somebody who was genuinely offended that she was a challenger staying opposite of Willow. I came here to be the centerpiece, and now you are Triple Crown champ, and you have a title that I want, that you're getting in my way, she said. Like it's her birthright to not have someone like Willow get in her way. And the fans were into Willow, and they were booing Mercedes. I felt like that's peak. That's it. They like Willow. They don't like they like Mercedes, so she's got some work to do sometimes because they like her ring work and her legacy. Mm-hmm. But that was super effective. So tell me about that. We talked about it on the show, but not as much as I want. How much did that work for you?
It was so great, and I said I'm a big fan of Mercedes. I'm actually wearing a CEO shirt to it. But yeah, it's so hard not to root for Willow. Like you said, she's almost too likable sometimes. But she was great. But you could tell like she was very genuine. She came across when she thanked her mom, and the crowd started chanting for her mom. That was fantastic. It was super babyface, super heel. But like you said, like Mercedes gave some of the most humanizing words, you know what I'm saying? Because with telling like you've been in my way every step of the way. Yep. It's always been you. You took my TBS championship. And they I don't think she said it specifically, but remember several years back, Willow actually was the one who beat her for the New Japan Strong Championship when they first introduced the Women's Championship a few years back. I think Mercedes was supposed to go over in that match, but I think that was the one where she hurt her foot or her leg, and I think they called an audible mid-match. Yep. But they have so much history together. And Mercedes, being that heel that you've gotten everything that I've worked for, and I'm better than you, and I deserve it, but you're getting it, so I'm mad. And so I thought it was great. The crowd did not like that she interrupted Willow's moment, so they let her know it. The shut the F up chants, those are always fun, and she he heard him and she played into it, and then kept it moving. It was great. It was such a good segment, Wade. Awesome segment.
Couple real highlights here that I think just stand out. Sometimes there's a moment that kind of distracts and takes away, and other times it's just the ribbon on top. And there was a point where Willow just asked Mercedes, "What's your problem?" And her quote, and I love this, is, "What? For 5 seconds, people didn't give you all of their attention?"
Yeah.
I mean, does that not embody why Mercedes is a heel?
100%.
Willow captured in that line, and her delivery was great. She didn't overdo it. It was just, what? For 5 seconds, people didn't give you all of their attention? That just cuts to the heart of why you should boo Mercedes, because she needs to be the center of attention. And she has this huge ego, but this huge insecurity and this complex that I am all that, and I am the middle center of the universe. And then the Mercedes asked Willow if she knows what she hates most about her. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm like, okay, yeah, what is it? She goes, "It's not your smile. It's not these fans loving you. It's at every turn you're in my way."
Every turn.
Yes, and that's what you said, Danny. At every turn you're in my way. So what they did is this didn't turn into, there's no meta stuff, there's no breaking the fourth wall, there's no I'm going to have a funny line that'll get people to go, "Oh my God." It was her character, who we believe, who are buying into her right now. It's not, you don't think it's her character, you think it's her. She doesn't like Willow for a reason that makes sense if this were real. It passes the realism filter. Yes, that's why Mercedes would be mad. If this were all real and not staged, that's what Mercedes' character would say. Your smile, these fans, it's annoying, but I hate you because you get in my way of being, as Willow said, the center of attention with all the titles. One other great line, when the crowd's chanting "shut the F up," I mean, I think she winged it. I mean, I don't know if she knew that chant was coming. She goes, I won't shut the hell up," I think was what she said. Good for her.
Yeah, she said,
I won't shut the hell up. And then she vowed to end Willow's fairy tale. Perfect. Willow's living the fairy tale. And tune into All In, because Mercedes, the heel, who needs to be center of attention, can't stand Willow's a step ahead of her and getting in her way, wants to end her fairy tale. I mean, it's just, that's it. That's what you do.
Great. Oh yeah, it was like, and like I said, I'm a big Mercedes fan, but I'm also a big Willow fan, and like I said, Willow is genuinely just one of the nicest people. I've met Willow a couple of times in real life. She's always came across exactly how she comes across on TV. It's hard not to root for her, and like I said, I'm very interested to see where they go from here. I think someone said, I wish the pay-per-view was next week, because I hope they don't mess this up.
Yeah. That's how I started the show. That was my opening line on the show. Can we
because
is it this weekend?
Because I feel like both for that match and the Kenny Osprey segment, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I feel like both of those are like, I hope they can still go up from here, because it's going to be hard to top that both of those segments over the next 4 weeks. I would say, like, I was with a group of guys. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to transition into the Will and Kenny segment, but I was with a group of guys, and one of them's not really a wrestling fan. He just came with us, and he was just like, he wasn't thrilled with how long the last segment went, considering how long we had already been there.
Yeah.
But I was like you, Wade. I was on the edge of my seat, because I felt like everything that they were saying, I felt it. I felt like it was real, and I felt like they both did a very good job. It had me enthralled, with what they were going to say. Yeah,
I was about to say, if you didn't find the word, I was going to offer enthralled, because I felt that's what you were conveying. Yep. Before I switch, switch to that, I do one final thing I liked about the Mercedes Willow promo. I like to be specific about what I like, because I'm very specific about what I don't like. So another thing I liked is she said the only reason the fans are cheering for her is you're standing across the ring from me. In other words, they see you as an antithesis to me. They're rooting against me more than they're rooting for you. That's what a narcissist thinks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
yep.
It's not, you're not popular, because those traits that Willow exhibits to a narcissist, like Sasha Banks / Mercedes Moné, her whole journey, a narcissist like her, and obviously she's had babyface genuine moments that people love, but like the heel version of her is a narcissist who doesn't believe that anyone has a trait worth cheering. It's just people are out to get her. They're just, you're out to get me. You resent my beauty. You resent my success. You resent my elegance and my lifestyle. And then she goes, and I love this line, Willow, I made you. I elevated you. I gave you the greatest moment of your career. And now I'm not just going to take your title, I'll take your smile. So she got to the heart of what makes Willow, the smile. But to say I elevated you it's the inversion of you are beneath me.
Mhm.
You wouldn't be a big star if you didn't get to stand opposite of someone of my stature. You should be thanking me for elevating you and giving you a stage that people care about. That is a line some main eventers who are pricks behind the scenes use to tell other wrestlers, you know, you should be thanking me more for giving you that moment. And other people, you know, so anyway, I just wanted to add that because I love that before Divine Dominion came out and turned into the kind of
it was an excellent line, and it kind of reminds me there was a segment I want to say in Nitro several years back where actually Roddy Piper said almost the exact same thing to Hogan. Do you think they would have cheered you as if they didn't hate me as much? And I still remember that line to this day. I thought it was a great line, and that's a very, very similar line. Very well done. And you know, Mercedes is a student of the game, so I wouldn't be surprised if she borrowed that from that segment, because like I said, that line stuck with me after all these years, and so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Mercedes borrowed that and added to it. But I 100% agree with you, Wade. Great segment, great line.
She brings her super fandom into her promos, and there's a callback there. Two things from Zach Barber on that match, then we'll talk more about Ospreay and Omega. Zach Barber says, Mercedes is arguably the greatest women's wrestler of her generation, but she's so bad on the mic, and tonight she finally found a confidence and cut a good promo. It helped that there's so much history between Willow and Mercedes, and that's one of the things that made, well, we'll talk about next, Omega and Ospreay work too, is there's so much history there. There was a super chat earlier that I want to scroll to here from Zach also. Thank you, Zach, for the super chat. Super chats are open. Everyone's welcome to throw a little bit in the tip jar for us. Willow and Mercedes hit a grand slam home run in their segment. The word perfect doesn't get thrown around often, but that segment was a perfect segment. I mean, yeah. I mean, perfect's a high standard, but
there isn't anything that I would change about it. I mean, the only thing, like, part of me thought about, sitting there in the crowd, I wonder if they regret how many streamers they threw out, because when the things got physical, like the streamers were kind of distracted and kind of getting on their legs, and I'm hoping they weren't like tripping over, getting themselves hurt. But yeah, that was one of the things that kind of jumped out to me, sitting where I was sitting. So I was like, oh, there's a lot of streamers still in the ring when they started getting physical.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so Omega Ospreay. I asked Rude Dog this. Did the crowd start off leaning one way and then end up another way? Did they end up split and then take sides? Did they start with taking sides and then end up split? How'd you gauge that journey for 15 minutes or so?
I felt like they didn't know how to feel about Kenny at first. I know I certainly didn't. I'm like, was this a heel turn Sunday? Like what happened? And then Kenny kind of explained himself, and then and I feel like, oddly enough, the crowd really started getting behind him when he started with the slaps. And then it seemed kind of split from there. I felt like Ospreay's delivery was really good and really fiery because he got fired up. He got slapped in the face 5 times. So he, of course he's going to be pissed off, and of course he's going to, be flustered and deliver a fiery promo. If he sat there calm, cool, and collected, I would be like, there's something wrong here, right? I felt like they both explained everything fine. I know, Kenny's reasoning behind doing what he did, some people might not get, but I got it. I understood. Hey, listen, like you could have done this sooner. I think part of you wanted to do it. So, if there's part of you that wants to do this, I'm going to get you before you get me. And,
the whole justification for Kenny and what we know about Kenny, it's not about babyface heel. It's about what feels authentically Kenny. Kenny's already said, I shouldn't have run with Don Callis. That was a mistake. It's a stain on my last title reign. So we know Kenny went that direction. He's owning it. He's not pretending it didn't happen, but he's going, I regret it, or I want to make up for it. I want to be a champ. I want a championship reign I can be proud of. So he's owned that. So we know who Kenny is or who he's growing to be. He wouldn't attack Ospreay just for the cliche trite, I'm going to attack you from behind because that's what pro wrestlers do, because it's a thing that's been done. He had his reason. We can get the Moxley thing, of Moxley cheerleading Ospreay to do it. And I don't know if that was done live or after the fact, but that was really compelling. That's a parenthetical. I don't want to get distracted from this other point that we're talking about. And that is Kenny is explaining, and it was the ingredient that was there, but it wasn't as clear as it needed to be because the plastic bag was a distraction. But Kenny saying you took too long to make the right decision is what it comes down to. And you had to pay a price for that. And it's and that's the thing I said. If the Bucks had come to the ring and told Kenny, like, let's say Kenny picked a plastic bag and he's enraged and he's looking at Ospreay. He's, I'm going to go get him. The Bucks come and they corner him and they go, no. Ospreay tore it up. You know, can do body language. He tore it up. He didn't do it. And then Kenny's like, but it took forever. Like, he thought about it. And that, you know, like, that could be the story in the moment or the story tells after the fact. They just didn't quite get the, what's it called the blocking in theater is a term, blocking, where do you stand when things are said? They didn't quite get the sequence and the blocking right. Omega needed to have some evidence that Ospreay thought about it, because for all he knew, I'm repeating myself here from Sunday night in the VIP roundtable and some things I said otherwise, but the missing ingredient was that Omega was jumping to a conclusion that his character in that moment couldn't have known, because he didn't see. Ospreay could have been handed a plastic bag and immediately tore it up and said, F no, Moxie, I'm not doing that to my friend. For all Omega knew in that moment, that's what happened. So it would make no sense to attack Ospreay. That was the problem. He covered it tonight adequately. And again, I focus on it because Taz said, I assumed by direction or improvisation, either way, it was a plastic bag that set Kenny off. Kenny explained it. He's like, it took too long. And when I saw the plastic bag, my conclusion, right or wrong, but you can imagine in the moment him drawing the conclusion, which is it took too long because you thought of using it.
If you were really my friend, you wouldn't have even had to think about it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So to me, even if we go, well, Kenny couldn't have known that happened, it was a logical thing in the moment for Kenny to think probably happened, because Ospreay's been hanging out with these guys for weeks and weeks and weeks. So he owned what happened. They didn't pretend it didn't happen. They came up with a plausible enough explanation. It doesn't have to hold up to scrutiny that Kenny could have known that, because Kenny just said, I thought that based on circumstances. A lot of people are in prison for life based on circumstantial evidence. And the circumstances that Kenny experienced were Ospreay came to the ring. I thought he was going to help me. And I was on the mat for a long time before he helped me. And I saw the plastic bag and I snapped. So anyway, I'm done talking about that because I wanted to wrap a bow around that. It worked for me. Some people in the chat aren't satisfied. I get it. Other people didn't think it was a problem to begin with. I disagree with you, but I thought tonight landed well. And it didn't feel overly wordy or defensive either. It felt like, I got to address this. I attacked you from behind. You need to know where my mindset was. I thought it worked.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like I said, I was sitting there. I was enthralled the entire time. After almost a 3-hour show, a talking segment still kept me engaged. And a 3-hour grab. The in-ring work tonight was great too. I mean, I know the talking segments have kind of dominated the talk of the show, but I mean I thought the triple threat at the beginning was great. Yes. Speedball Mike Bailey, I'm sorry, Wade. But holy crap, is he
Rude
good,
Dog
man.
ruined
like
it
that.
for us earlier. So
yeah. But
he was dropping F-bombs left and right, quoting the crowd with Don Callis and Ice.
Yeah. The crowd was a lot of fun during that segment. The F Don Callis, F Ice 2 was a really fun chant to chant. I mean, how over Brody King was. All those guys in that match worked so well. There wasn't a bad match tonight. I was engaged in every single one of them. Honestly, I think my least favorite match might have been Moxley and Commander, but that's not, that's just because one of them has to come last. I still like that match,
Yeah.
But yeah, the in-ring work tonight I thought was great too, on top of the segments that they did. How did the Bucks and Cope and Christian segment come across on television?
I liked it a lot on TV, but I was wondering how it worked with the crowd. Was it a breather? There was such intensity. Let's sit down, watch the big screen. Because I liked an older generation saying we owned one generation, but we want to own this one. And the Bucks are going, this is our only generation to own. This is our only era to own. We need to own this one. And we want to become 4-time champs and set the record. And Copeland's like, people left us for dead. They thought we were done. We're not. And Copeland saying that they didn't come back to do a retirement tour, like the New Age Outlaws in WWE last time. Like, we're here to prove we're still great. So I thought the storyline beats of two baby faces talking, it got intense, but then it got personal, but it didn't get tawdry or petty or any way that demeaned either side. And then you had Christian with a great line about the wives, just sneaking that in. So I liked it. What'd you think?
I really liked it too. And I feel like the crowd was listening, like, so sometimes, during a live show, if there's something up on the television, there's people chanting or there's people doing, the crowd is still being the crowd, especially in a hot crowd like this. But I feel like that segment you could tell landed with the live crowd because we were listening, as opposed to later on. I couldn't hear much of the Foley segment because it didn't sound like people were really when Foley was interviewing. Because people weren't really invested in what was going on there. But for Cope and Christian and the Young Bucks, I felt like that was really good, and I feel like they have some room to go up, as opposed to the other two, main segments. I'm not sure if if they peak too early, going into the All In, but with I still feel like there's room there with the Young Bucks and Cope and Christian.
The dynamic between the wrestlers facing each other in the three big matches that were most featured tonight: the men's world title, women's world title, and the AEW tag team titles. Arguably the three most important titles in AEW. I think all three segments tonight were better than any of the peak segments for the build to SummerSlam. And I think those three matches, in part because of just what they are, and in part because of how they've built them and framed them, feel like they are a bigger deal than Roman Seth, because people just don't care that much about Seth in that way, the way he really desperately wants him to. And Brock and Oba's been, like, I think it could have been sold better, but there's just something about it that's not, I don't think, at the level of these three. It hasn't been bad other than beating up the cops, which is stupid. And it's bigger than Cody and Punk, but that's the one closest to what Omega and Ospreay did. But there was an intensity and more history. So I know I like Punk and Cody. Like, it was more than fine. Like, it was good. But it wasn't great. And frankly, I'm happy they didn't aim for great and swing and miss with nonsense. I'm fine with good. But even though they only have Friday to now sell it. But yeah, so I come away from it thinking, when we think, SummerSlam missing something, and look at the night 2 lineup. Rich Fann and I talked about that last night, and Greg Parks and I talked about on the flagship. Night 2, it's a one-match show, and it's a one-match people don't care about. Roman Seth. I mean, it's as weak of a stadium show lineup as I think you can look at in history and find. And I mean, teach their own if they're really excited about it. But I mean, from not a good pay-per-view or a good house show, but a stadium super show with the SummerSlam banners hanging from the ceiling, it's not close. And if you take the best of SummerSlams both nights, put them on one night, I still don't think the top three are as good as the top three at All In right now, or really even. I don't think they're super far off, but they're not close either. It's whatever's in between those two. Just do you agree with that, Denny? Or
yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, like, Wade, when I bought my SummerSlam tickets, I bought them separate nights. I didn't do the combo, and I sprung for the more expensive tickets on night 2 and this was before the lineup was set. So I sprung for the closer, more expensive tickets on night 2, thinking there's no way that they don't put Punk and Cody on night 2, and they'll probably put Brock and Oba on night 2, and they'll like Seth and Roman will be night 1, and then turns out the opposite. So, like, I'm sitting further away for the card that I'm more excited for, and I'm not happy with it. I will say I'm excited to see Trick Williams. I love Trick Williams, but what the hell, what did Carmelo Hayes do? What did Carmelo Hayes do to Triple H? Like everyone thought that it was going to be Carmelo and Trick when they didn't transition from WrestleMania directly into Carmelo and Trick. I was like, oh, they're saving it for SummerSlam. And then they ingest Baron Corbin, who, I mean, I think he's a nice enough guy, but no one's ever bought a ticket to see Baron Corbin. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. But people would want to see Carmelo and Trick, and I don't understand why they didn't do that.
Some of the best parts of WWE TV this year, and I think Pat McAfee, just walked with dirty shoes all over it, sadly, in the lead up to WrestleMania. And maybe it reflects an internal attitude that's led to this moment. But some of the greatest moments of 2026 for WWE, because in-ring counts for something. It's not everything. It's not even the most important thing, but you got to have it. And it's got to be good. And it's Carmelo Hayes doing his thing and Ilya Dragunov doing his thing. And neither of them are on this show. And it feels like something something isn't on SummerSlam that ought to be. And, it's the characters, it's who the the show feels like the show that'd be put together by casual executives who peripherally pay attention to the product and think we need the larger-than-life characters to be larger than life, and we need the legacy star. I withdraw that framing of Baron Corbin. The guy from the past.
Is that Baron Corbin way?
No. The guy from the past, Lesnar's a legacy star. The guy from the past who's been away a while and is coming back, we got to get him on the show because it's novel and fresh, and he hasn't been on TV a lot. Like, it does feel like a show that a peripheral phony know-it-all executive would put together as the show. It doesn't have heart. There's not a heart, to the undercard. There's not an appreciation for who deserves these spots. And don't say deserves the spots because they deserve it, but it would be shortchanging the fans. I mean, they deserve the spots because it's what the fans would want to see in a big stadium show. They deserved a reward to be at SummerSlam in a stadium. And some of that it doesn't feel like that's there. But this is an AEW show, not a rip on SummerSlam show.
Yeah.
You can, if you want to add anything, you can. But otherwise, we're running along, and I want to focus on AEW. Although AEW stands will be happy that we just ripped on SummerSlam. We've driven them all away anyway.
I'll say, since AEW's been in existence, there have been times where I've enjoyed AEW more. There's been times where I've enjoyed WWE more. I'm not I want AEW to put WWE out of business or vice versa. I enjoy good wrestling, Wade, and I think you do too. It's one of the reasons why I'm a fan.
You watching us and being on the show right now is a product of that's who we attract, is people who don't just turn a blind eye to the weakness and don't swear off anything. You can appreciate both at different times when they're peaking. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and I've criticized AEW, and they've done things that I don't understand what they've done. I mean, they've had peaks and valleys themselves, and so I mean it's only fair. But I'm telling you, I went to WrestleMania 41 last year, and I went to All In Texas. I had more fun at All In Texas. And I went to Monday Night Raw last week, and I went to AEW Dynamite this week. I'm obviously a fan of both promotions. Yeah. I had more fun at Dynamite, and it's just an objective opinion that AEW gave me a better show tonight than Monday Night Raw did last week. They put more into it. You would have thought tonight was the go home show, whereas like last week that we had was the second to last Monday before SummerSlam, and they had none of their top stars were there. We got Oba and Seth. I mean, but no Roman, no Brock. But tonight, we got Mercedes, we got Kenny, we got Will Ospreay. I mean, but Will Ospreay, he wasn't even advertised. I wasn't even 100% sure if he was going to be there. But AEW just gave me a better show.
How did Maya World do with holding the crowd's attention or being what reaction did she get?
Oh, she got a very good reaction. The crowd was very much behind her. Persephone did a very good job, healing it up for her as well. But Maya did great. She definitely She definitely played the role of the babyface very well tonight. Good in-ring presence, and you can see the confidence growing. I feel like week by week with Maya.
Did the conglomeration and demand match need to be there? Was the crowd worn out? Did it help? Was it a good addition to the show for you? Like, how'd you feel about it? It seems like a loaded question. It's a genuine question.
No, I enjoyed the match. I thought it was a very good match. All of those guys are super talented. I'm a big fan of Orange Cassidy. Big fan of Ricochet. Especially Roddy and Kyle. Did great. I thought it was weird. Like, the one thing I thought was weird. Why wasn't it not a disqualification? When the guys came out and
hit him with the belt. Hit Orange with the belt.
Yeah. When Blake Christian and then Jay, but even on the outside, I thought the referee saw Jay Lethal and Lee Moriarty. I thought that the referee saw them attack Roddy and Roddy and Kyle. Like, did the referee not see that?
Probably did, and it's probably a flaw in following normal rules such as they exist in AEW, because usually they work to distract referees from that. So
Yeah,
I'd have to review it.
That was my one complaint, because I'm sitting there going, oh, this is matches of disqualification. They're going to build to something else, and then I look over and Orange Cassidy's getting hit with the belt, and the referee's counting to 3. I'm like, wait a minute, like you just saw these guys, like they attacked 2 guys that are in the match, like why is that not a disqualification?
Yeah,
that would probably be my only like nitpicky complaint, I guess, for the night. But overall, I thought the match was good. Obviously those guys are super athletic. Orange Cassidy's really good at playing up with the crowd. But yeah, I didn't mind it being there. I've been to I went to AEW pay-per-views before, Wade, so I can obviously sit through 5 hours of wrestling. So
yeah.
But so I didn't think it went wrong. But I will say, like I said, my one buddy that was with us, who's not much of a wrestling fan, he probably could have done without it, because he by the end of the Kenny segment, he was definitely ready to go home.
I felt like going into tonight, it was going to be a night with some good wrestling matches that we would think took too long for the top star to beat the lesser star, which is par for AEW's course often. And there would just be, a couple newsworthy segments. Willow would celebrate. We'd be like thinking, oh, it was a little too much. Then Kenny would do a promo and be like, oh, it didn't really address the points needed to, and he didn't rise to the moment. And that'd be it. Oh, and a face-to-face with the Bucks and Copeland and Christian, and, who knows how those things go. Everything exceeded expectations. In ring, met or exceeded, good expectations, but everything else, it was more of it, and it was good. It's excellent.
Yeah.
So
I went into tonight expecting a good show. I expected to have fun. I honestly expected it to have more fun than I did at Monday Night Raw last week. And just like the gentleman that commented earlier, one of the best atmospheres he's ever been in wrestling. I 100% second that motion, and you can tell Wade just by talking to me tonight that I've gone to a lot of wrestling. I've been your on-site correspondent several times. But tonight was one of the funnest times I've ever had inside of a professional wrestling arena.
All right, Danny, anything else you want to add before we let you go? Anything off camera, Tony Khan ICP, or
I'm not a big fan of ICP, but I mean the crowd. I think I was in the minority. The crowd seemed to like it, but I think because I was able to listen to a little bit of Rude Dog. He touched on it earlier. If AEW doesn't get a pay-per-view after this, and if Detroit doesn't get a pay-per-view after this, there's something wrong. I'll tell you, like I've been to I think every show that they've done in Detroit, and almost every single time Tony, like, I'm going to bring a pay-per-view to Detroit, and I'm talking like years now, and we got a Blood and Guts Dynamite once, so it's not I can't complain too, because that was pretty cool. But we still haven't gotten a full-fledged pay-per-view. But Tony said he's going to work on it, and he's going to bring one to us, and he really wants to. And he came out and played to the crowd, like he always does. But that was fun. I'll say if you saw a bunch of Willow signs, they kind of I love Willow, but that's I don't want to take too much away from it. But they passed a lot of those signs out themselves. Those weren't a whole lot of those weren't a lot of homemade signs that were there. If you saw when you like right before the segment, they were walking around passing a lot of them out to the people in the front row.
Wow, that's news.
Yeah, I was
everything.
Yeah, maybe Willow wasn't as over as we thought, huh? So I was fortunate enough to get a front row ticket, so I was it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun sitting in the front row. If you guys, I mean, the first 2 or 3 rows at a wrestling show are way different than sitting anywhere else in the arena. So
everyone should try it sometime, even at an indie show, or if you can't afford it, for a big show, get ideally a big major event where you're just. First or second row is such a different experience. It's not even always my favorite place to be. I think by the hard cam is like great. Like I've said, by the hard cam, that's sometimes where I get comps, where it's like you're off camera, it's your media, or whatever. I love that spot because everyone's playing to you. You can see everything. It's like in hockey, the best spot. I've sat against the glass at an NHL game, and it's awesome, but I wouldn't want a season ticket there. I want to be up high looking down to see what's happening. So, by the way, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, good. I wanted to ask you.
Okay, I'm going to go because otherwise we'll do this. It's like at a 4-way stop. No one goes. One fan held up a sign and it said, "I'm just a small." Or he says, "Are we supposed?" I'm sorry, I'm screwing this up. Am I supposed to want to cheer Jack Perry? A fan in the front row had that sign. I was just like, "Wow, okay, that's interesting." And then he flipped it over, and the backside said, "I'm just a small town bird lawyer." I don't get the reference. So if someone knows-
it's probably It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference.
Okay.
Charlie Kelly practices bird law. If you've ever watched It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, Wade, are you going to be participating in the SummerSlam festivities?
Yes, to be determined. I think I'll be at Mall of America on the Laps Fan podcast, by the way. They're doing something special out at MOA, and I'll be out there to talk about attending the first Nitro and the opening of Postomania.
Okay.
So I'll do that. And then the logistics of everything else I'm still working out. So nothing formal, nothing announced. But if you see me, I might Friday go to the Super Show at the convention center, kind of wander around there.
Yep. I got a couple of things going on that Friday there. Got some, I'm doing some photo op, meet and greet stuff, but yeah, man, if I see you, I'd like to grab you and take a picture.
No, please. No autographs, no photos. Leave me alone. No, I'm kidding. Of course, say hi. I'll have my bodyguards there. I'll tell them. Yeah. No eye contact.
Put my picture up. Please. Yeah, keep this man from 10 feet from me.
Tom Cruise had the rule that when he was on set, no one could make eye contact. It just everyone was staring at him, and it threw him off. And so he's like, no. If you made eye contact, you got fired. That always stuck with me as being. I sort of get it if you're just trying to do your thing, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, that's Tom Cruise," but at the same time, it just is such a bad look.
That's something that Mercedes should incorporate in her heel character.
Yes. That'd be great. She's walking backstage. You go, fire this person. No eye contact. Yeah. I did. Well, yeah. Hopefully we bump into each other this weekend, and I hope you have a good time in Minneapolis. Have you been to the Twin Cities before?
This will be my first time. First time. So yeah, we're going to do the Mall of America stuff.
Nice.
My son wants to go to Nickelodeon World. We're going to take him there, and then obviously we got both nights of SummerSlam, and some cool photo op and autograph sessions and stuff like that. And so yeah, pretty excited, man.
Sweet. Wander around the Skyways.
Fun weekend.
You can get from one side of downtown Minneapolis to the other just through the second floor Skyway system over all the streets, and it's air conditioned.
Oh, sweet. All right, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
5 miles of Skyways because of our winters. So, all right, sweet. Thanks, Eddie.
Yeah, tell me about Midwest winters, man. All right, have a good one, bro.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's bring Sean Plichta into the conversation. How do I say your last name? I keep forgetting. Plichta?
You got it.
I have to ignore the H. I don't like doing it, but I will for you.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're all sad. I didn't get to talk to Rich, but I'm glad I got to see him in there for a little while. It's always fun.
Yeah, we'll bring Rich back.
Yeah. No, his schedule's crazy, and I know that, and I get my schedule's crazy too. So they're all crazy. Everybody's schedule's crazy.
Maybe we'll do a live on YouTube just for VIP member episode of everything like we did for the Fix.
Oh,
and
that would actually
invite
be fun.
people to just call in and interact. Yeah, just give the secret code away for VIP members.
That'd be a blast.
Sean, I want to say you've held a long time. You have a lot to say. We're not going to go real long because I have 2 dogs licking my legs right now because it's their dinner time, and they are restless, and they're like, this isn't supposed to go so long on Wednesdays. But I do want to hear what you have to say because I know you got some views based on the chat comments.
Well, yeah.
But if I look down, it's the dogs are at my feet as usual.
I get it. No, I mean, I won't. Obviously, I wouldn't go too long anyway. But I had the things I was mainly going to go about was going into the show. I'm with you guys. The show was very good in the sense of they built from the pay-per-view that I didn't watch because they didn't earn my money. So I didn't watch it. I went back and watched the main event, the way they did that, and I was like, I didn't like it. And again, I know you've talked about it. I kind of get at you a little bit because you're saying don't forget the plot holes. There's plot holes that need to be that are bad that you can't just look over and say, well, the segment was great, so I forget those. No, they're still there. I still have an issue with them. I have an issue with the plastic bag. I always have an issue with that. I think it's stupid. Mox's character is driving me nuts. Yeah. Mox is not the best character in AEW. His character sucks. I hate it. I don't hate him. I hate his character. I think it's stupid. I think he's compelling as a talker, but he's talks in riddles. It's stupid the way he's got these people that do these horrible things. But then he's supposed to be this good guy. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody in real life would do that. It doesn't make any sense.
I will say that I don't know if it's a defense or just an outright correction. I don't think he sees himself as a babyface.
No, he doesn't. No,
I don't think Jon Moxley, the person, believes his wrestling persona is a babyface. I think Jon Moxley, the character, sees himself as most villains do as a babyface. I think he sees himself, and he explained his characters. he explained his character tonight more than he ever has before, which is we meet people, we meet people where they are. And he's unapologetic, but yeah, I don't know.
I disagree with Rich. I disagree with Rich on the fact that I disagree vehemently. They were never his actual friends. Yes, they might have liked him. They were not his friends. They were plotting this, in my opinion, the entire time. This was a plan to make him do something that he didn't want to do, and he was going to eventually say no, that I don't want to do it. But no, they were always going to do that. This was always a part of the Death Riders. They're the Death Riders. They're bad people. They had this plan all along. Yes, they might have liked Ospreay as maybe, oh, he's cool, but they were never like, oh, we want you to be in our tree for the long haul. That was never their thought.
Sean, I would love a sit-down interview with Renee or
Right.
Tony Schiavone or whoever, Taz, and just go, what was the plan? Why you were helping Ospreay, but John, you aspired to be AEW World Champion again someday. You were before. You haven't lost a match that says you can't challenge for the title again.
Right.
What was the plan if Ospreay stuck with you? Was the person you wanted him to turn into, and he ended up winning the championship? Would you have stood by and been proud and celebrated with him? Was the plan to challenge him right afterwards and go, I built you, now I will destroy you? What was the plan? I want that in Dynamite canon. I want them to introduce that interview, and I think it would work in the next 2 weeks. Ospreay said, don't want your patch. I'm done. Let's have a sit down. Or Moxley can just say it to the camera, or on camera say it to Wheeler and Claudio. You know what? That kid was in that kid broke up with us before we could break up with him. Whatever. Like, I don't know. I genuinely, Sean, don't know. You have to have headcanon to come up with it. Like, what was Moxley's ultimate intent? And I'd like that to be answered on record, on camera.
Yeah, I think they need to go there. If you have a month left, which they do, you need to try to get that in of what Moxley's actual thought was this whole entire time. What was going through his mind? Was he wanting to?
I vote for that too.
Yeah, and so I didn't like. I hope they do that. There's one thing about Willow, and the chat will be mad at me, and I'm not trying. I'm just trying to be honest about what I thought at the time. Willow was very genuine. I agree with that. I thought she was very genuine. I thought it was a real moment that touched her. It's just there was part of me at the end that it was more at the end than at the beginning. I thought she was really choked up. It meant a lot to her. I think she was still, part of me thought she was trying a little too hard at the end. Like, she was trying to be that genuine, more genuine, and then it felt a little weird at the end, but I still thought it was good. Like, it wasn't bad. It was definitely some of the better stuff she's done, because it was genuine. She was crying. It felt real to me. It wasn't like, oh, she's just putting on fake tears to make people think she's... I thought there was real stuff there. And Mercedes, again, tonight she was way better than she's ever been. But the problem is, I still thought going into this, her character should be more defined of who she is. Like, they just did all this today. It's like, why have you not been doing this over the time? She's been back for like a month and a half. They've done nothing until all of a sudden they want to have this one promo.
This was her coming out party, who she is. She's a narcissist, and she's resentful that 5 seconds of time has been shared with focus has been on someone else instead of her. I mean, here's my thing, Sean. Should that have been defined a month ago? Yes. Should Kenny Omega have done a better job reacting to the plastic bag and not make it seem like he knew something that he couldn't have known based on how we saw that scene play out? Yes. But if you ask for something and you get it, I think tonight is a time to say, good, we got a Mercedes Moné character. We got a Kenny explanation. They addressed
but you've done this before, though, too. But you've said this before. Like, you've, even on other shows, have said, I'm not going to forget what they've done. Yes, I agree what you're saying. It's good to do what they did today. But it doesn't just forget the past of what they haven't done. It still should be brought up that they haven't done those things, and they need to continue to do those things.
My criticism, Sean, is when they move on and they don't address it, but they didn't move on without addressing it. Like, I don't think Mercedes has to address, I'm sorry for being ambiguous. I'm a narcissist. Like, she's landed in a good spot opposite of Willow. I think it would have been good to define it more definitively sooner. I agree to that, but there's nothing that can be done about it. It's a fact. Yes, she should have had a better idea of how she wanted to portray herself when she came back, and they should have done a better job with that. Yes, that can still be true. At the same time, we go, tonight she addressed that. not through not through explaining herself, but just being who we think she's best at being, and how she can serve her AEW paychecks the best, which is being a narcissist heel. So that's good. We're not saying all is forgiven. What we're saying is we're in a good spot now. Let's acknowledge it. Same thing with Kenny as an explanation. Does someone need to corner Kenny next week and go, Kenny, you said it took forever for Ospreay to save you, but for all you knew, he was trying to, and the Death Riders were occupying him by having a long conversation with him. And you see a plastic bag and you shove it in Ospreay's face. But what you didn't know at the time that Ospreay didn't yank the bag that Ospreay didn't yank the bag out of Moxley's hand and tear it up and go, no, the F not. You're not going to do that to my friend. He might have done that. So what you did deserves an apology. Okay. Truthfully, yes. If this were real life and that was I was watching my friends, I'd go, Kenny, you owe Will an apology because you drew some conclusions you didn't have a right to draw. However, by coincidence, what's a better word? It just so happens that Kenny's assumptions were right. So he doesn't owe Ospreay an apology. Ospreay did consider it. He was struggling with it, and he didn't do it. I didn't like that either. I would have changed things about Sunday for sure. But here's the thing. Kenny's assumptions, and they were, and he's admitting it. He inferred things from what happened behind his back. But he's owning that. That's what I want. Own it, make it work in the narrative. And he did. He happened to be right. He couldn't know he was right, but he guessed right. So we're in a good landing spot. He guessed correctly. He doesn't owe Will an apology. I think Will deserved to be attacked by Kenny if Kenny knew that Will Ospreay thought about using the plastic bag. After what the Death Riders did to Bryan Danielson, the fact that Will even considered it means taking a one-winged angel is like, okay, we're even, but like you understand Kenny's reaction in the moment doing that. So to me, they did own it enough. This isn't ignoring it. They did their best to take a sloppy execution of a flawed idea that had a lot of good in it, and they built on the good. They did the best they could to explain the bad, and I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm a little. Oh, I was going to ask you. I mean, it's kind of early, but I'll ask you in a couple weeks because it's a little early. With Ospreay, I was definitely more into him before this whole angle started. I was more when he first came in and he was having great matches, and even though he did the Danielson thing, which I hated the way that ended, I hated that. But like the matches he was having, his promos were good enough for me where I was totally into him. I felt like he had an edge. I felt like he had all that stuff. And then it's like, both him and Omega are like, I'm down in the dumps. I don't know if I can do it anymore and all this stuff. And then like the death of Moxley's got to give me the pep I need to all of a sudden be that. I don't know. It doesn't work for me. I still want him to win because I think he's, the future of AEW right now more than Omega is, even though Omega can still go. I mean, it's not like he's done by any means, and that's what I like about Omega either. Like, oh, I'm done. It's like, Kenny, you still have great matches. I know you've dealt with a lot of health issues, like the verticulitis that's bad. I mean, you dealt with that for a while, but I mean, he still can have great matches, so he's not done by any means. So I didn't like the way they kind of went about that either. I just wish Ospreay would have been a, confident baby face, just, that coming from underneath, I'm going to beat you.
I get it, and I think we might get there. I mean, we got a month to go. I
hope they can keep it hot for that long.
I know. I think we needed this moment of the intensity, and I don't want them to lose it. I think this added an edge to Ospreay. I think him saying I like being a Death Rider it's not a guilty pleasure, but I think he feels guilty about it, but he's also just feels like he owes Kenny honesty. I am so pure, and for a little bit I wasn't, and it was fun, but it went too far, and now I know who I am. I mean, I think testing the limits of your morality, your judgment, your standards of conduct, good people do that, and he came back, and we got to witness it. We got to live him explaining himself. And Kenny did that a few weeks ago when he said, I'm not proud of my title reign with Don Callis. I want to have a title reign I can be proud of. I was in a dark place and I did things I'm not proud of. Like, I think Ospreay, he woke up to the idea. I got intoxicated with the idea of these guys have my back and they're going to teach me to be a killer. and bring something out of me or instill something in me I didn't have so that I can win a world title in Wembley. That works.
But why does he think they have his back, though? Why? Like, why would he think they have his back? They tried to kill him. Why would he think that for any reason? That's what I'm trying to get past in my head. I'm trying to see his point of view of why they would actually be, even though they're putting on a front that they have, but why would they truly have my back for this entire haul?
Well, I'll answer that with the second quote. I have this one on the screen. King of the North PW says he mentioned Callum Newman in the promo. Will misses his guys who all left him and stayed in Japan. So part of it is he missed the camaraderie. He didn't have that in AEW. Kenny wasn't the friend that Kenny wanted Will to think he was for him. That's part of what was happening here. Ducky D says Mox's plan was what it is for Claudio Pacagnuta. The answer is the same plan for Ospreay. Mox is building a team of killers, and his goal has always been to bring the killer out. So I think Ospreay talked himself into these guys just want to be great. And as Moxley said, we follow the rules. Let's see, let me get the wording right. We meet people where they are and play by the rules that are necessary. That's what this sport is about. So Ospreay bought into the cult leader. We play by the rules that are necessary. He got Ospreay to go a little bit off his normal moral path because Ospreay was, and I wish Ospreay leaned into it more tonight. I talked about this on Sunday, on the flagship with Greg, I think, and with Rich on Tuesday. I wish Ospreay had said, I went to the Death Riders because I was scared that I would not have what it takes to win an AEW world title without adding something to my game and without having a weapon that doesn't involve landing on my head or diving over the ring. I might not have a lot of those left in me. I need to have another option. It's a great basketball player who can hit 3-point shots, but now he's got to learn how to lay it up against the backboard and get layups and how to run past defenders. Like, you got to add an element to your game. Anthony Edwards with Timberwolves, every summer there's an element of his game he works on and focuses on intently to add that to his arsenal. And I think there's a sports story with Will. He could have done a soccer analogy and lost all of us here in the States with it, but he could have said, I needed to add something to my game, and they were there and offering it to me. And yes, Kenny, I should have had my eyes open of who they were, and there might have been an ulterior motive, or it might have taken me to a place that isn't me. But you know what? When they did take me to a place that wasn't me, I couldn't follow them any longer. I shoved the patch back in their place, but I still have what they gave me, but I'm not going to go any further. I mean, whatever. There's a way to, I wish he incorporated the insecurity of coming back after injury, his career almost over. I need to add an element to my game. And yeah, I hung out with them, and I hung out with them longer than I probably should have because I missed the camaraderie of Japan. They gave me that. I had guys watching my back at a time I felt I needed it, but they went too far, and now I'm disowning them. I mean, I think that's a compelling wrestling story, and they have a month for him to say that in a sit-down promo or another situation. I just think add that to his story. I think it's enough of an explanation for me that he would look the other way when Claudio hits Brody King in the back of the head with a belt to win a match at the time that Ospreay's training with them. Like, is he oblivious to it? Is he going, oh, I don't know if I don't like it? Did he talk behind closed? He could introduce it to canon. By the way, I talked behind closed doors. I didn't like what they were doing. I told them I'm not on board. You're not helping me join you if you're going to do these kinds of things. He could have said he was having some sort of conversation with them about that too. So fans go, okay, he was trying to change them while they were also trying to change him. That could be introduced.
That's what I'm hoping they do. If they do that, that at least makes me feel better about, okay, that's what I was thinking during the middle of this, because they've been heels the entire time. They've been doing stuff the entire time. And the only other thing I will say about Ospreay, if he does win, which I mean, again, I hope he does, I don't really want him fighting the Death Riders. I don't want it. I'm over the Death Riders. This has been for 4 years. I'm over it. I don't want to see him fight Claudio. They're not going to win. None of them are going to win, other than maybe Moxley. And it's just like, okay, we've seen it. I don't know if I need to tell a whole story with them. I mean, Moxley makes sense because it's Moxley, but Moxley with the Continental title is crazy too.
Yep. So I want to throw a couple comments on that, and then we'll let you throw one or two quick topics up, and then we'll sign off. King of the North, PW says, they had his back all this time since he came back from the neck issue. All those tags and post-match Don Callis family attacks. He could acknowledge that, say they were there for me when I needed them, when I was feeling vulnerable and I was outnumbered. Where was everybody else? Ducky D says, Ospreay spent the majority of his career as a member of a group, heel or face. It tracks that he would gravitate to another family at his lowest point. And that was incorporated into tonight's promo. Not these two specifics, but he talked about, I miss my running buddies in Japan. King of the North, the Nets. Ospreay started his big league stuff as a member of Chaos and New Japan, left Chaos and made his own group, United Empire, and he left New Japan and had no family type group, so the Death Riders were there. So this matches its history. Should AEW like make that more explicit and kind of own this? No, I wish the announcers were like, I don't understand how Ospreay could be around the Death Riders. That's not who he is. He shouldn't have been there that long. What was going on? And then Taz goes, well, he's always been with a group. He's always been a follower. And part of what people who know Will Ospreay the best and have followed his whole career and know him deeply personally is they were wondering, can he ever be a leader? Can he ever be an alpha? Or will he always be the guy who's got to be part of the cool group? Is he going to be a Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in the NWO? Or is there going to be somebody else who's kind of a hanger-on or there? And that I think that's a rich story that they can just dig their hands into and extract talking points. And I wish the announcer, it's one of the things I'm most let down about AEW announcers is I think that there are talking points there to be had, and it's just not a strength of Excalibur. Taz does it a little. Shivani tries to do a little. But Excalibur is so just straightforward, call the moves, call the match. And I want a more human interaction. I want them to feel more like a podcast or a talk show when they have their moments in a match when they can, or the on-camera segments, and they don't just loosen up and have that panel discussion that feels genuine, that adds layers and nuance to the storyline. And I think there are things to be had right now where they should. This is the next month would be a great chance for them to. We talk about Willow getting better and Mercedes knowing her thing. I'd like the announcers to go, let's get better. I'd like Tony Khan to go, we're going to try something. And we're going to have the announcers talk about some of these things that we don't feel it makes sense for the wrestlers themselves to talk about, but we can get fans thinking about certain. Jim Ross always said, number one job of the announcer is not to call the name of a move or a near fall. It's to ask the right questions so we get the fans thinking about what we want them to think about. So that's what they're paying attention to and looking for when they watch a match. It's about the questions you ask. I don't know if Excalibur has ever asked a question during a match. He calls it, but I don't know if he's ever asked a question. And listen to Jim Ross at his peak. He's asking questions. What is Kane thinking? Why would Kane do this? Whatever. And so I'd like that added to the art of the total product of AEW. And there's an opportunity here to do it. And then I think you'd be happier, Sean. Anything else quick? I want to wrap up in a minute or two.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I did like Cope and Cage with the Bucks. I did like that. My only issue is if the Bucks do win, which I think they will, I just don't. I mean, they've already had the title 4 times already. I just want some newer tag teams. Give me some fresh new tag teams in AEW that they have. They just don't want to push right away. I think if they did that, it'd be cool. Let the Young Bucks put over some younger tag teams, and I think that'd be fun. So I'm looking forward.
We had
to
9 Speedball. We had Brody King and Bandito. We got Davis and Jake if they want to go, or Jack Doyle if they want to go there. Claudio and Yuta or whatever. I mean, I don't know. There's been, I wish the eras were more defined, but it's not like the Bucks have just been the center of attention week in and week out. I'm fine with them getting another spot on top.
Well, let's say right now, I think it'll be fine. I do hope they put over another one in the future because I think there's some fresh blood. That's all.
Yeah.
So always fun, Wade.
Cool.
Fun.
Sean, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yep. See you guys.
Awesome. Yep. Take care. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're going to invite you once again to go VIP. PWTorch, VIPinfo.com is where you can get information on going VIP. It's a great weekend to go VIP. Great week to do it. You can catch up on the AEW pay-per-view roundtable that is exclusive for VIP members. We've been doing post-pay-per-view roundtable podcasts for over 20 years. They're all available on demand in our library if you get a VIP membership. So many perks. It's a good way to support what we do if you believe in what we do. If you believe our approach to covering wrestling is what you're looking for. I sound like a public television drive here. If you believe in the programming we're offering you, but it's what keeps us going. So if you want to support us, I think you can feel good about it and the type of product we bring you and the analysis we bring you. And support us. PWTorch, VIPinfo.com. Please like our show. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or give us a 5-star rating in Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever app you're listening to us in. And also, you're invited to comment on the show on our YouTube page. You can always send us emails at wpostShow@gmail.com. If you want to be part of the flagship show next week, you can start sending questions to Wade Keller podcast@gmail.com. We got a big weekend of coverage coming up on the site and in the podcast formats with SummerSlam on the weekend, and I hope they over-deliver, and I hope we are more pleased with the what they deliver each night than the lineups are suggesting for a double book stadium show on one weekend. So we'll be there covering it out. Check out my TV reports and paper reports and PLA reports at PWTorch. Visit that website every day for exclusive content. Great contributors deserve their eyes on what they're writing, and so we invite you to do that too. All right, thanks everybody, and we'll talk to y'all next time.